choosing to not optimize, it's like a ridiculous mindset. Our closing rate's pretty good. And I'm like, what is it? They're like 50%. Okay, so half of your jobs are not being closed on. Well, can you close an extra 20 grand a day? And the answer is absolutely.
That's so ridiculous.
FieldPulse is the all-in-one field service management solution built specifically for field service teams. FieldPulse is designed to simplify your day-to-day operations by combining everything that you need into one platform. This includes multiple integrations with other softwares you might already use, like QuickBooks Online or Desktop. With advanced tools and features for scheduling and dispatching, CRM, estimates, invoices, project management, team communication, and a detailed reporting and insights, FieldPulse will transform the way that your team operates, saving you time and finding revenue potential you didn't even know existed. Whether you're a small business looking to grow or a larger company ready to scale, FieldPulse gives you the tools to increase productivity and keep everything running smoothly. And don't just take our word for it. FieldPulse has earned over 580 glowing reviews with an average of 4.8 stars. That's Field, P-U-L-S-E. Head to their website to learn more. That's fieldpulse.com. And because we know how impressed y'all are going to be, we got you guys an exclusive limited time offer. So make sure you mention owned and operated and get 15% off their annual plan with FieldPulse now. Check it out. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
We haven't had one of these in a long time, John. Just John and Jack.
I missed you.
But April's coming up soon, so I'm excited for that. I look really forward to the workshop. Not like actual April, like the workshop.
Bro, what are you talking about? Yeah. April is the worst.
I'm referring to like missing you, and you're just over there being a jerk and hurting my feelings.
I know. The workshop's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, April, aside from the workshop, April is the literal worst.
Yeah, it definitely is. Except February last year was the worst for me. And I posted on Twitter, and we're up 236% year over year, which means absolutely nothing because we should have only been up like 50 to 60. But still, February wasn't
last
a
February
bloodbath.
It was just like so bad last year. Is that the idea?
So bad. With the same amount of HVAC people I have today, last year I did $60,000.
Yeah, I'm sure we could somebody should link back to that episode because I'm sure you talk about that.
I'm sure I'm probably crying. But just like
weeping blood.
So the good news though is we're starting to track everything. We've been talking about gross margin and gross profit and all this kind of crazy stuff over the past like 6 months on the podcast. And I have numbers. I came bearing numbers, and those numbers are.
Let's do it.
We hit break even, which is huge.
Okay, like net break even.
Net break even. So I think we made like $14,000. Like it wasn't a bad month.
That's a win.
That's a win. Like not losing 30K.
What is a big win. What is a budgeted net profit per month? Like what do you expect?
To break even per month?
No, like what you said 14's a win. Is it what are you expecting for net profit per month?
I don't think we granularize that much. We're more focused, like if you think back to when you were our size, we're focused on growth a little bit more than profit. So we want our revenue numbers to be high while keeping our gross margin kind of solid. Yeah,
I basically ran break even.
We shoot for like 10%. Like that's what I want is gross profit net to be 10%. Because we're shooting for 15% over on the year this year, but like 10 would be awesome.
Sweet.
10%. But yeah, HVAC saved the day. And I don't know how my saleswoman did it. Amazing, John. Amazing. So she sold most of that, 75% of that with a gross margin of 59% in HVAC installs.
Woo.
59% in February.
That's great.
And then my sales service did 57% in February, which was awesome. Plumbing sat around 60, which they did great, but they didn't make a whole lot. We had a lot of people that were out. So they did I think they did like 60 or 70,000.
Okay.
And so we ended the year or the month with 57% blended, I believe. All in.
Nice.
Company wide, 57%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Blended, non-weighted. But really excited about that. Like that was huge. And it's huge and you can feel it. Like you can see it in the bottom line. Like, oh, we actually have like more money.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That sounds like a huge win.
Yeah, and then the backside of it is then we went through and said, okay, well that sounds like a huge win, but let's make sure it was like what was our close rate on HVAC install? Because I don't want a 120% gross margin with like a 2% close rate, right?
Yeah,
it can hurt you in some instances, but we still had a 75% plus close rate, so like it was beautiful, very very happy. But now the name of the game going into March is we don't want our March to be our February, right?
Okay.
So we're really trying to stay on top of it because it's moderate. We went into like hard moderate weather, like 60 degrees.
Same here. Yeah, same here. Yeah, we've still been selling. We're 3 days in. But so far we've sold the budget every day, which has been good, which is 120. But we're ripping some discounts to do that.
I want you to go back and listen, John, to like earlier episodes when you're like 100K day. Yeah, we finally are getting 100K days. We're fine.
Yeah, I know.
And now you're like,
man.
oh, my budget's 120 a day.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel like a big deal. So if that helps, it hasn't totally rolled off yet. But yeah, it's good. We've been selling the budget, which has been a big win. Revenue in February was not good. We did not execute as well as we would have liked, primarily in electric. And we had a bunch of sickness. Our sales were pretty close to what we expected. It's just we actually didn't complete the work. So that was pretty lame. And then for March, what we did, we do a BOGO. So, people have mixed opinions on this, but like my opinion is I don't really care. Like our job is to keep our installers going, basically any cost. So a BOGO is like thousands of dollars off a system during a very specific period of time. So we did that this year. And what was really interesting is we ended up doing a large equipment purchase for a huge amount of money off from one of our vendors. Because normally we just have I'll tell you how it usually goes. Usually we go and we tell a vendor, hey, for this 45-day period, I need an extra 5 to 8% rebate payable at day 60. And that's going to allow me to be more competitive for our shoulder seasons. So we do that in March, April, and we do that in September, October.
For HVAC too, or just plumbing?
This is exclusively HVAC.
Okay. Awesome.
So this is our third or fourth shoulder season doing this, and it's been a big win. It allows us to shave like 20 points off retail price without it impacting our gross margin. So we get to get way more competitive, which helps us win more deals during shoulder. But because we negotiated so effectively last year for HVAC equipment, which we've talked about on here, I actually was not able to secure the BOGO programs again. Good and bad. So what we ended up doing was we did a bulk buy of equipment, which we got the price 30% off our retail price for equipment. So we did a pretty large acquisition of equipment.
This is so
and
dumb.
Instead of an 8% rebate, we got 30% off.
Oh.
So it was really interesting.
How did you plan for that,
We were able
though?
to... We didn't plan for it. We now know to plan for it. It kind of fell into our lap, but this is now another tool that we're going to use in our toolbox.
I guess what scares me, right, is like there's so many different types, sizes, and types of equipment. Like, how did you plan?
2 and 2.5 tons only.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
No, I mean that's the way to go. Split 2.5 tons only. All heat pump or gas or. I guess you guys only do gas in yours.
Ohio's not a heat pump.
That makes it easy. So we actually just launched something not the same, but similar into March, hoping that we can drive traffic. We're doing essentially a $7,000 heat pump split any size all March. And
nice.
that's the plan. That's the game. And we've secured with a vendor special pricing to make sure that works across the board. Higher pricing on the lower side, just slightly, but slightly lower pricing on the bigger units so that we can even that out. And I mean, there's really no 5-ton heat pump splits anyway. Like nobody uses those. So our hope is that we're going to drive a ton of 2 2.5, and 3 ton heat pump splits. And we've just launched that yesterday, and we've already seen some decent traffic.
Yeah.
Hoping
Dude, that's awesome.
March.
I think the big probably lesson here is like be proactive with shoulder season. Like we spend a lot of our time thinking about how to survive shoulder season. Like when we're in peak season, we're preparing for the next shoulder season.
Yeah.
So like in the middle of July, what I'm going to be focusing on isn't July. I'm going to be focusing on, okay, September's coming up. What special promo do I have? How can I make sure I keep moving boxes for this 30-day period from hell? And that's how we focus on most of the year, also for like February to the end of April.
Yeah, that idea changed my business, by the way. So we restructured pretty much everything to understand like, hey, we need to be taking pictures at every job site, not because like, hey, it's the right thing to do, but we need those photos. We need that data so that we can actually actively go after certain customers in the off season. And subsequently also, like anything that we run, any kind of promotion that we run, the goal is collecting data, and not necessarily for the middle of summer. Like we don't need the extra, I guess, we love the extra jobs, don't get me wrong, but like we don't need the extra jobs in the middle of summer. When we need them is to call them later on, right? Call them for the fall maintenance or the spring service. And so that's really changed how we function and like the switches we flip and pull to survive shoulder. Like that one thought that I remember sitting in a storage unit talking with you about.
Anything you can do to prep yourself for slow season is the win. There's actually, I think it's right here. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it is. I get to reference a book on this shelf. I read this book like 10 years ago. HVAC Spells Wealth. Let's go.
HVAC Spells Wealth.
Yeah, it's good. So somewhere in here, they talk about this concept.
For those that didn't see that awesome thing that just happened live, John and I both
happen to have the same book right behind our heads. That was not intentional. We are not being paid by Ron Smith to do this. Anyways, there's a part in here where it talks about that. Like, hey, they're working on shoulder season 6 months ahead.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing right now, what I'm seeing on like LinkedIn and like Facebook groups right now is like good sized businesses that were not working on shoulder season 6 months ahead. Like there's a $20 million business in our market and like 40 of their 50 techs are sitting right now. And they are normally like a good, I don't know where they whiffed because they're normally good, like solid executors. So that was, it was pretty interesting, but like you got to prep. So are you taking calls? What's your outbound strategy? What's your inbound strategy? And is it robust enough? We've spent a ton of work on that over the last 2 years. And then like, how can you go to market in a way that drives leads? So for us, that was the BOGO. We're going to drive leads through BOGO. This year, we're not doing it through BOGO. We're just doing it like, hey, we have this crazy cheap system. Do you want it? It's like a Goodman, you know, and for us, it gave us a full system at like $8,300, which puts us on pace with like the Chucks in a truck in our market. And for us, that's still a full 60% gross margin because we got it for so cheap.
Which is crazy when you think about purchasing power in that sense from all like the people in the private equity groups.
Yeah, I bought air conditioners for like $400. Yeah, these air conditioners are like $400.
So jealous. When you say BOGO, what are they getting one free normally? Like
the furnace. So you buy an air conditioner, you get a furnace for free. Now we still charge for the install. So basically it would take a $10,000 system down to like $8,500.
Good deal.
But you sacrifice margin to do that. It's actually, this is a better one because the price is so big, the discount's so big, we don't sacrifice any margin. We actually make a higher margin, less gross profit dollars, but a higher margin. And we've already started closing the sales. And because we own it, we get to, we can make this a longer runway of a deal. So if we still have some leftover going into May, then we're going to use it for September's deal.
Yeah, I was going to say that's interesting because if you don't sell them all, like they don't go bad either. You get to keep them and sell them still at full price now going into summer with the cheaper thing. If you had the capital have you ever thought about that, buying in bulk and storing in your warehouse if you had the capital?
This was the first time we've ever actually done. Well, we did it one other time for generators like 3 years ago, and that was a mistake. But it's because we didn't have a mature enough like marketing and sales process, because it is a big risk. I mean, you bring on hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment, which is how much we brought on. And like, you have to believe that you're going to put it in, because that's a big load. We believe we're going to put it in. We know how to move boxes. We know how to market. So yeah, but I think it is intimidating. We're thinking about doing it again with generators, because we've started to push more and more generators, like 2 a week at this point, which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
And we're starting to like really hone in on selling them and how to price them and where to get them. And so it's kind of fun. I think generators this year will do like a few $1 million of generators this year, which is like just nuts. So I think it'll be the same thing. I think we'll end up bulk buying a couple $100,000 at a time.
Mm-hmm. How did electrical flop in February? Was it because of there was snow on the ground, so you can't? Oh no, it's the flu.
It's literally the flu. Our install team. Yeah, we got wrecked.
Yeah,
we just got absolutely wrecked. I mean, they basically missed an entire week of revenue.
No, I'm with you on that one. I mean, it wrecked me and half of our team as well for like 4 days, and mostly the plumbing division. And so our plumbers, like we're not big enough to have like the capacity to continue. Like, we just pretty much shut down. Like, sorry, we have one guy who can kind of run some stuff, push it out.
Yeah, and I'm feeling especially grateful for this year. Like last year, it'll be interesting to have a Q1. So last year, I'm going to look this up. Our electrical was still really pretty small last February, and we were doing like layoffs for electric, and that's been our big like celebration this year. Is like plumbing and electric. We're typically talking about like, okay, we might have to reduce the team size. We're thinking about like what levers we can pull. We haven't even begun those conversations this year. We haven't needed to. Like, full schedule on every single team most days, HVAC included. Yeah, so that has been freaking awesome. So the electrical team is like really vibing, because they're like, last year, a lot of them were here. Like, it's all the same team. And they're just like, oh my God, like last year at this time we were doing layoffs, and like we didn't this year. I'm looking up last year's revenue.
So what other kind of levers are you pulling? So you have the BOGO, but it's really not a BOGO this year. We actually accidentally did the same one. But what other, especially across different service lines like electrical and plumbing, what other kind of specials or outbounding, or what levers are you pulling to keep the board full and to keep sales coming in? I
mean, discounting is our really big one, and inside sales is huge for us. People probably have mixed opinions on this, but our cost structure is built to be variable. If I have an empty plane seat, I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day in one of my peer groups, and her business is amazing, and like better than us gross margin, which is pretty cool. And I was like, how are you guys doing this? Like, you're a mid 20 million shop and your gross margin's like 60. Like, that's crazy. And they just like really hold tight to gross margin, which I think is good, and I think totally works for them. For us, what we have found drives the bus and continues our growth, which is important to us, is not being that tight to it. Like, we want to hit 53 to 55%. We will give discounts to fill the board. Like, we're a big believer of the ultimate enemy is an empty plane seat. Mm-hmm. So if that plane's taken off regardless, and I have empty seats and I didn't want to sell them because I was like holding tight to my gross margin, I believe that's a mistake for us. For other companies, maybe not. For us, I think that's a mistake. So the big levers we pull is like, we built an inside sales team. I think we talked about it a bunch on the show. We have 5 inside salespeople. We use Hatch like crazy for outbounding those estimates and messaging them. And that's been a huge win. And we have this whole like code system I'm sure we've talked about, where it's like code green through icy blue. That's a really important part of us maximizing every day, is our inside sales, our Hatch, and our code system, which I made like a year ago.
That's incredible. I mean, I see what you're saying, because we for those who don't know, my wife and I just went on a cruise with our kids, and and we gambled in the casino a teeny bit. And what's crazy about it was they have the same belief. They said, hey, an empty cruise seat or an empty cruise room is worth nothing, and actually hits them negatively. So what they do is they give out these free cruises if you gamble a little bit, because they're saying, hey, we'll get it back. And rather than putting just anybody in, we're going to put somebody who's going to lose money in the casino inside that room so that they lose enough money that it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it completely makes sense. I think last time I was there, though, you only had 3 inside salespeople.
We added, we're up to 5. And it's been a really interesting lever inside our business. I don't know anybody else. Like even folks like 3-4 times my size do not have the number of inside salespeople we have.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Yeah, but we leverage it in really interesting ways. So like we'll do live closes. So if a tech is in front of a homeowner and maybe it's a newer technician, they're just getting used to our pricing, they'll actually call in and inside sales will present their options for them and live close it. So that's been interesting. We started selling over the phone for inbound leads. We're experimenting with selling water heaters over Zoom right now. We sold 2 on Monday. So that's been interesting. A lot of rehash. Like there's not an estimate that goes unfollowed up because we have all this capacity with 5 agents to do it. So it has been a very big win for us. Earlier this year, we started an outbounding campaign and we really didn't know where to begin. So we were using dialing on the phones, we were sending text messages, we were trying emails, tried a couple different softwares, and ultimately we ended up with Hatch. Hatch has been an awesome partner for us. We started with them about 5 or 6 months ago, and we've just continued to ramp. Every month we add 3 or 4 more automations. And my personal favorite thing about working with Hatch is Hatch comes out of the box ready to go. With Hatch, you get automated multi-touch outreach across text, voicemail drop, email, and a ton more. So every single lead that you have gets worked. Every invoice that you leave gets retouched and rehashed, and it's freaking awesome. Check out usehatchapp.com/OAO.
That's incredible. And so talk about these live closes. What is the close percentage? What does it look like compared to, a comfort advisor or sending a salesperson out there or even just a experienced tech?
I mean, it depends. There's some, we use it for live closing HVAC. Average ticket and close rate's pretty much the same as a CA, and obviously more convenient to the homeowner. So that's cool. We also use it for newer techs, like I said, that don't know how to present options yet.
Yeah.
And that's been a really big benefit. Or like if someone's struggling in service and their close rate is like 30% or 20% or something, then like we just assign them to an inside sales agent. They're like, hey, your close rate isn't good. Like you will work with this guy until you get your close rate back up. Like you're wasting our leads, and it's March and it's 60 degrees. Like you can't waste our leads. We spent too much money on that. Like honestly, a lot of guys end up really liking it because it takes a ton of the pressure of the close off of them. They don't even have to close anymore. They just hand it over to inside sales.
That's interesting. We do a pretty terrible job at following up on leads or on estimates. And so I wonder if we tried to get that SOP down and the scripts down and pull those levers.
Oh yeah.
Because it does feel like wasted opportunity.
Is huge. It's huge. Yeah. Do you have any inside sales at all?
Like half and half. Somebody who's doing outside sales or outbounding is our inside sales person. So they're like running dual.
Yeah, you could focus that up. It was one of our big growth levers for last year, was adding an inside sales component. Literally just from rehash. Places we had already been to, calling them back. And the big thing is like, hey, if I have empty seats tomorrow, if I have open install, what do I do?
Yeah.
And it's the same playbook. Like I think we talked about this, but our company is divided into sales and install. So, hey, if service is empty, you have a playbook probably, right? You're going to outbound. You're going to turn up your PPC. You're going to send some mailboxes. You'll knock on doors. Like you have 10 things you're going to go figure out how to do. You're going to advertise on TikTok. Like you're going to do something in order to attempt to get stuff on the service board. People seem to miss the back half of that, which is, okay, but what happens if install's empty?
Yeah.
And like, hey, shocker, install is 80% of your revenue probably. So like we care a ton about the thing that's 20% of our revenue. And we're like choosing to not optimize the thing that is 80%. It's like a ridiculous mindset. So yeah, so build a series of levers that looks exactly like what you've built for your service team. If your service team is empty, you've got 10 things you're going to do. If your install team is empty, you've got 10 things you're going to do. And like that mindset is what helped us drive. And honestly, I think is helping us. I wasn't super excited about revenue in February, but like gross margin was big. Revenue was 20% 25% over last year's February. We were net profitable January and February. And we just don't have a lot of dead days.
Yeah.
So it's a win.
It's definitely a win. And the last one that I'm curious about is cross sales. Are you guys focusing a lot on cross sales right now and trying to get the other groups in? I know it's a thing that
not really
one we always do. You're always supposed to do it, but is there any additional focus?
That's like one of our service things. So if the service is in code red, like we will mention like, hey, everybody, HVAC slow today. HVAC service slow today. If you see something, say something. But that is one of the levers. We have like, it's a pretty robust call board management system that we put into place last year. We add more onto it every month. I don't think it's 20 steps, but there's a lot of steps. Like we do a lot of shit, which ultimately is, I think, why we don't have very many like slow service days is like we really, even now, March 60 degrees, like our HVAC service team is full tilt running.
Yeah. Have you guys started maintenances yet?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We were trying to wait till the 15th or the 20th, but I mean, once the 60-degree weather hit, we just said, hey, full speed ahead.
We flipped as fast as we possibly could. Yeah. Shoulder season is tough,
beast,
but you can proactively manage it. So like, I think we just talked about a bunch of ways to proactively manage it. You can plan your promotions, work with your vendors on what those promotions are, maybe do a pre-buy, set up a rehash system so you can try to close stuff, set up an outbound system so you can call your customers, be like, hey, it's time for that tune-up.
I'm going to do that one. Let's circle back in a month on that. I'm curious. I'm going to track the shit out of that and see.
Which one? Inside sales?
Rehashing. It's like a CEA in the sense that you can bring them on as like a commission-only structure as well, right? In a sense.
Yeah, it's a salesperson.
So it's a salesperson. If they don't sell, it's not really a loss. If they do sell, then it's a win.
Right. I mean, there's a base comp.
Yeah.
But it's a low base comp. I mean, they're a salesperson. Their job is to sell. And it's just like a different bucket. So like if I've got this bucket up here, like, hey, this is jobs that we went and sold on site. Okay, great. If you have a 50% closing rate, you have 50% of your jobs that you didn't close on site. Because every time I bring this up to somebody that's never done it, they're like, our closing rate's pretty good. And I'm like, what is it? They're like 50%. I'm like, okay, so half of your jobs are not being closed on. What are you doing about that? And they're just like, I'm training RCAs. And I'm like, that's not the point, bro. Like, you have to do something else. You got to go one more step. You have to actually like think. And how do we close another 10% of those jobs? And you proactively discount, you use a code system like us, like, okay, hey, I'm empty tomorrow, 20% off. I got to fill the board. I got installers sitting. Let's get this thing done. So that's how our structure works. Like we'll rip all the way down to 30.
It's so obvious and simple that it actually hurts because we're it hurts, especially because you called me out. Like we're at 56%. I'm thinking he's right. Like 10%, like you can make
10%,
50, 100 calls a day. Maybe not that many on inside sales, but still you make, and you do 10% more. I mean, our estimates are hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like that's just money. Totally. That's left sitting.
So there's an interesting, if you guys use the Service Titan app, there's an interesting component at the bottom of the home page. So today we have 327,000. I don't know if you can see that, of open estimates, and it's 1. So for us, a normal, like we consider it a good day of open estimates is like $700,000 to $800,000. And that's going to include every single option, right? Like every single, so like if I went out to a customer's house for HVAC, I probably left $100,000 of options at that house. if we didn't close it. So that's a good day. That means the board was full. And then it's like, okay, well, can you close an extra 20 grand a day? And the answer is absolutely. And especially during shoulder season, like this is probably one of the biggest levers that we pull is we rip discounts. But the only reason we can go so low on discounts is because we proactively handled a code system. We have a variable cost structure. We set negotiations with vendors. There's like 10 other steps in there, but it allows us to, full send.
I love it. This is how you survive shoulder season, everybody.
This is how you thrive. I mean, year to date, we're net profitable. We're at like 11% net year to date, and we're in March.
That's amazing because normally, right, you start off low and then in summer you pick back up and you survive or you recover those percentages.
Our big like North Star is we are going to be profitable 12 out of 12 months this year. We give 0 fucks. So we're going to give 12 out of 12 months, man. It's happening. So we did a ton of work, and we've talked about all the different like components of this over the last couple months, but like, okay, what's our vendor negotiation system look like? What's our cashback system look like? What's our rebates look like? How do we make sure we're doing just in time? Can we bulk buy so our gross margin goes down? Can we put our installers on task rate? That way there's no like sitting labor cost. Like, how do you make as much of your P&L variable? Can you put your call takers on commission? Like it's all these different components. It's all the same thing. We don't want a single negative month. I actually think we're at month 10
of like straight never hitting a negative month.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which like crazy. My previous record was 7. So like 10 straight months, especially in February, we're just like, all right.
That's awesome. I mean, if you look at enough P&Ls too from HVAC companies, you realize that's so difficult. Or like, I mean,
that's taken like the Lord's freaking work.
Yeah. That is wild. 10 months.
I just looked at we're actually 14% net year to date. So I underestimated it slightly.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Straight jealous. Yep.
All the work. Implement half of what we talked about in this episode and you should be fine. Well, the other thing that was really interesting is we did reach the point where we outgrew our costs.
Yeah.
Which is a very important distinction. I had a feeling it happened last year, but we were still like investing and like in the height of it. But our overhead for January and February of this year was below our overhead of January and February last year. We actually spent $50,000 less this year than last year. And that's with driving about $1 million more in revenue.
Mic drop.
It's sweet.
Yeah. No, the crazy part about all this to me is all of these implementations that don't get me wrong, there's a ton of nuance. They're all simple. None of them are easy, but they're all so simple. Yeah. It's like, hey, you got to focus on this and just drive this lever, this lever, and this lever, and you'll get there.
And we've literally talked about it. Like, just listen to the show. Yeah. Like, I think I've talked about inside sales on here. We had to have.
Yeah, we definitely have. But it was like back when you were still, I don't want to say still figuring it out, but it was still fresher. It was like late last year, like maybe October.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's wild. That is absolutely wild. 50,000 less, $1 million more in revenue.
Yeah. And then we were able, February was a miss for us for flu, and we did discount substantially. But even after all that discounting, we still had 47% gross margin. So like, we don't like it to be below 50, but I mean, we ripped some discounts to keep going. So 47%. Whereas last year, our gross margin last February was like 30, but we learned how to play the game a lot better.
Because now it has me thinking like the same thing. Like if I were to have ripped a bunch of discounts and called back all those open estimates in February, what would we have said? Right. What would we have sat at? If we could have cleared another 50 to 100K, it would have been.
Did you have dead days? Yeah. If you had installers sitting, then like you should have done that.
HVAC for sure. Plumbing, it was not as straightforward just because of all the sickness, right? You could, get as many leads as you want, but I can't run them or sales.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the really just big question here is like, if you had sitting
I'm gonna go
days,
back and look later.
What could you have done? What could you have done with those sitting days? How can we fill them? Is it going to be creating urgency? Is it going to be limited time pricing? Like, what are we going to do to make this better?
Where did your inside salespeople come from?
Oh, man, all over. Like all over.
Just any industry, just like, hey.
We optimized for people that have sold before.
Yeah. Especially phone sales, right?
Yeah, it's a different thing. Like, it's harder to pick up queues. I mean, they closed $35,000 today so far. Like,
John, these conversations hurt so much. I'm like,
it's good.
I'm being such an idiot right now, but at the same time, like,
just go do it.
I'm just gonna go do it. Like I said, March or April 5th.
Yeah,
April 5th. I'm gonna check back in on this that week. Hold me to it. Mark it in your calendars. We're going to go and hire an inside salesperson, and then we're just going to run it as hard as we can.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. Today, just to like really rub this in, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I'm already in pain.
It's 120 and we're at 91,000 for the day. Pretty actually good split across all trades, which usually like ideally each trade does like 40 or 50 grand each. Right. But yeah, before I walked in today, not before I walked in, but like a few minutes after I walked in, it was like a few minutes after 8. And like there was already like 30 grand on the board, and it was inside sales closing up an HVAC system that we put in today. Like we literally closed it this morning at like 7:30. We're installing it today because we had a sitting install crew.
Yeah.
And then we did the same thing with excavation.
Oh my God. For people who in the trades who actually knows what it takes to sell 50,000 in HVAC a day is like what, 5 to 7 units. Plumbing 50,000. Well, I mean,
we have like I think we have 4 crews right now.
Or like that's just so much work going on out of your place that I just can't even fucking even fathom.
Well, and then it takes a ton of back end too, because what HVAC's been really interesting because like the equipment that you need on site, like if I want to be able to do same day, next day, like a same day HVAC install or even next day, like what do you need to be able to do that? And the answer is a lot.
Yeah.
You need all the equipment on site. You need specific inventory ready to go. You need custom pack outs ready to roll. Like it takes a ton of freaking work to make this thing happen. But once you get it cruising, you can, drop 13 grand before you go in the office that day and you can have a crew working. So like juice is worth the squeeze.
I'm gonna take a video and post it on the Facebook group here soon of our office because we are just starting to implement the pack outs for for water heaters. Same day, next day water heaters.
Huge one.
It's super easy to do, so it's like right up front. And we're just getting our electrical side down for the pack out for HVAC because that's where we're gonna start the big items, and then the warehouse just got organized and we're still building and stuff, but it's at a spot where I'm ready to show it. It doesn't look like super ugly anymore. It just looks like a little bit ugly. So I'm really excited to like the MTV Cribs HVAC plumbing home services style.
Dude, I love it. I love it. Yeah, we're bringing on a second VMI like right now, and it's HVAC exclusive so that we can better support like pack outs for HVAC service and install because it is just such a beast. That's
so wild. Is that what you guys are using? I don't know if we're not able to talk about it. Is that what you're using the other building for?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Well, when's the workshop?
In a month and 10 days.
You guys actually might be able to see the second VMI going.
Yeah.
It goes live like early April.
Okay, so but
we're going to see
some
jaws hit the floor because we're going to walk in and see 400 pieces of equipment.
I was just going to say it's going to be a warehouse in there of just like
it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So huge amount of equipment and then an entire second VMI rolling.
I'm wondering, man, I'm going to talk to you offline about this, but I'm wondering if we were to go to some of the really small vendors, if they would think about it. Like super small distribution warehouses, like the ones that are trying to get footholds, and like they could use our facilities as VMI, but also like like you were saying,
ship out of.
Technically, it's a location. Like someone else could walk into your store and buy something from it.
Yeah,
so
it's a branch.
Why wouldn't we allow the same thing and they just service us a little bit better. I'm wondering if I could convince one, because I have a small distributor in mind who they're itching for some more business.
I think you just found a great way.
Man, that would be nice. Show up. Jack's got a little VMI going on too.
That'd be good. That'd be good. But yeah, I think it's going to be, they start construction like next week. And so if it's not done, it will be so close to being done by the time workshop's here. Maybe we'll even host workshop over in that building. That'd be kind of fun because there's like a classroom section.
That'll be neat. I'm excited to see it. That's going to be wild. It's crazy because like when we started these workshops too, you were just moving into the building you're in now, and now you're getting another building and you're moving into that building like 2 workshops later.
And like hopefully this time we have some fun like enhancements. So we added like an employee swag shop. So that's kind of cool. We're doing a bunch of the walls, which is cool. We've just like enhanced building. It's been good. It's
culture stuff.
It's been good.
Sweet. Well, this has been an awesome episode. I'm going to leave here with like some big to-dos.
Surviving Q1.
Not only surviving AKA Q1, but just
like sell stuff. Yeah, I mean, net profitable in Q1. Yeah. I mean, we're at 12.5%.
That's amazing. Amazing. I love it. Awesome. If you like what you heard today, come take a look at us at the website, ownedandoperated.com. Join the Facebook group. Facebook group is amazing. Love you guys on there. It is a lot of fun, good information all the time. And then if you haven't, I know there's like a few seats left. It's like 3 seats, 4 seats. Not many are left at the workshop. This will probably drop right before the workshop. So you won't have much time to get there anyway. If there's any left seats, April 15th through the 18th, come take a look at John's new shop.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm so pumped up. And leave us a review wherever you leave reviews at. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks.